Good afternoon on what is a warm, bright and breezy day. It is Tuesday the 30th of April and I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a parcel to unbox, which arrived today. I'm not quite sure what's in here. Let's find out. Double packed. What I've got is this. So how do I get into? It was one of those things where you sort of like got it wrapped round, and you don't want to cut anywhere near the book, and it's quite tight. So I think we're going to have to go carefully cut through the upper part of the plastic so that it separates a bit. I know this is, so what I'm doing is sort of cutting down there. There we go. And I'm going to do that. And this is, I was expecting this, but I didn't expect to be quite so quickly. This is the 6th volume in the Miseries Misfortunes series by Luke Crane of Burning Wheel fame. This is the guidebook to Paris of 1648. Paris 1648. So Miseries Misfortunes is an attempt to do a historical role-playing game based in the early modern period, 1648, during the sort of like the Revolutionary Wars, to late, sort of like in the middle of the 30 Years' War and so on, in and around Paris and France, but not do essentially the Three Musketeers. Essentially, it's the same period, it's the same kind of setting, but it's not the pulp action of the Three Musketeers. It's not swashbuckling at all. It's a bit drier than that, but it's lots of flavour and detail in there, in terms of your characters and what you can do. But it's based off essentially basic Dungeons and Dragons. It's been more heavily modified, but it's an old school Renaissance style or style stroke adjacent role playing. So what is Paris? The paradise of women, the purgatory of men, and the hell of horses. So says the Comte de Bussy, a soldier and perhaps the most voluble libertine of his day. What more can we add about this storied city? Book 6 of the Miseries and Misfortunes series illuminates a single year in the history of the stinking mud-caked capital of France. Within, we provide an overview of the city, a period map keyed with many interesting locations, a catalogue of more than 50 figures of note, along with dozens of life paths and mentalities for those living in fair Lutetia. It is not to leave the reader wanting. We have also constructed a grand system to represent the political struggles taking place on the streets of the capital. Will your faction crush the revolt of the judges, or will you rise up and throw off royal tyranny? To decide, you need only open this tome to enter the unique moment and make a mark on Parisian history that the poets laud your deeds for centuries to come. Miseries and Misfortunes is a role-playing game in historical fiction set in 1648 Europe. So in fact, this is a book I've been wanting to pick because I've got the other 5 books in the series and I'm slowly working my way through them, reviewing them, and I was going to pick this one up whilst I was at Gen Con this year. 2024. Not going to happen. I've been sent a copy. Thank you to Luke Crane and Andy Markham, of course. So, credits and contents page. And then essentially open discussion of Paris, what this is, what the sources are for the book, and how to prioritise the information, and what this is essentially the author's kind of overview of what Paris is like, describing the various main points, including the mud, and also the fashion, because that's what we also account Paris for. And tennis, believe it or not. and the hotels, hospitals, maisons, chateaux, so residences, and where to shop, because your player characters and the players and the characters always like to go shopping. Beggars, thieves, and drifters, plenty of those. And of course, when all else fails, the rule of law comes into effect. All the way up to executions and so on. Companionship, what you might find in the city, and what pleasures you might find with Paris by night, or not so pleasures. Notable locations. Period map of Paris, and then we start off with an A and work our way through page by page. And of course, this is essentially medieval Paris. This is a city that has yet to have its architecture and its layout redrawn to what it is today. Basically, the designs of Haussmann, the architect, bulldozing slums and departments to create the wide boulevards of the city that there are now. So it's smaller, tighter, and it's basically working off that larger map. Get down to N with the bridges of Paris, crossing the Seine, and we've got islands in the Seine as well. So this is also actually, if you're playing a game set in this period, it's also a good source book for the city. And we have points of interest, as if there haven't been points of interest earlier in the section. We have the 16 quarters of the city discussed, neighbourhoods. Before we move on to figures of note, and in some ways this is going to be a history lesson as well, reading this, because they're not all of these people. You've heard of some people, but not others. You will have heard of sort of like the Cardinal Mazarin and the King and Queen. That's about it, because French history is not something we are necessarily taught. We actually have to go out and read. But sometimes a nice person like Luke Crane comes along and creates a role-playing supplement. He's done all the research for you, so he's going to deliver it to you in handy little chunks. So we've got these various individuals, figures of note, 50 of those. And then move on to Moments 1848. These are the events that are going to take place over the course of the year, starting with the opening salvo of the slingshot wall. And much of this is going to be new to me. Because, I don't know a great deal about French history during this period. Then we've got Parisian moments, events which can take place over the course of the year. Let's just move on a bit. So you've actually got quite a lengthy section of moments in 1648. So that's all your moments. Actually, a bit more, I think it should be. And then mentalities. We actually have, this is essentially the attitudes and personalities that you have as a character, and then you can build these into your NPCs. and the religions of the city. This is sort of like, getting very specific, whereas the game itself is quite broad because it's got to do with the whole of France. Also the same with Parisian politics. Parisian politics is going to be very different to that of elsewhere. Transports guests and visitors freely visiting the city. So Parisian mentality, political mentality, and then we have life paths for characters. So I think including Parisian birth. Life paths, essentially you've got actor, and antiquary, artillery officer, author. Basically, you want to do your Dumas kind of thing. Barber, surgeon, beggar. And things with this is what it's a little bit like is what it reminds me of is what in some ways is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Here you've got the duelist, and this is sort of like these are things that you can take year by year to create a character and then live through in order to achieve and attain more essentially benefits and training and so on. So yeah, this does kind of remind me a bit of that. And it's also in the sense of it's the inclusion of the beggar, certain grubbiness and the mud and so on. It's a very European sensibility in that case, obviously, because it's set in Paris. And then we have requirements for different roles and different aspects of the character, life path skills, starting ages for life paths. And then we've got Le Grand Système. And this is setting the mood for the city, people and their mood. Whether that's, angry or riotous, furious or persecuted. This is how they react. And what to do when they get unreasonable, and the demands that could be made. So there's a sense of sort of controlling the ebb and flow of the mood of the people and so on over the course of the year. And then we have actions and politics of the city, how to use it, and what they are. What they really want. Resources and assets, and the power that they hold, and influence, whether or not they have the political will. So really can really bring this into play. So those are the general rules, and then you've got the particular 1648 Paris factions. Including, so we've got the Council of State, the Fronde, loose coalition of other noble judges, the noble princes. Then we've got sort of the march of history, what's going to happen, divergence and uncertainty, because obviously the effect of you could just have the events play out as they do in our own timeline, but the influence of the player characters might change that. So you've got guidance there on what happens if you destroy a faction. Political actions that can be taken. Things like finance, purchase, publish, and then addendum dealing with the subject of bread, because obviously the peasantry and the people need to be kept fed. Famine stalking the streets, bread supply effects, and then just a general state of the world with event types, crowds, mobs, and battles, how to handle those, including bringing in the soldiery, and handling street battles. What happens when you're caught in the mob, facing skirmishes with the militia. Another addendum, war of words. What happens when you basically pamphleteers go out, speeches are made, you've got the weapons of wits, you can actually duel with words. And then what happens is basically you can form factions. So your player characters could actually lead a faction. It's creating the idea, and so on. And then people as patron, basically essentially serving the people rather than serving an individual as a patron. And then menu people, which is basically dealing with the ordinary folk. So this is essentially a list of average NPCs. And so on. Just basically that you can the game master that can use fairly quickly. And then we have the index and a map location index at the end, and a skill index. So that is the book 6 in the Miseries and Misfortunes role-playing game series, Paris 1648. That looks great. I really like the look of that. That's going to be interesting reading, just even in terms of the historical background and detail. Really looking forward to that. So yeah, that's Paris 1648 from Burning Wheel. Well, I hope you enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you did, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a package containing a book or game, or in this case a supplement for a old school Renaissance style role-playing game, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice little cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook, and we'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.